let's talk about back pain, friends. And so I put a link in the comments to a blog post that I wrote, I think 3 years ago. And it was one of the very first posts that I put on Not So Ancient Chinese Secrets. And it's on, okay, a confession on how I hurt my back. And this was being young and foolish and wrestling my brother. Of course, when he challenged me to a wrestling match, you cannot say no. And especially since I'm the younger brother, I cannot say no. And I think we had house guests over. I think we were doing dishes. And then we both abruptly left. I think the house guests may have been watching us wrestle. Oh, this is so embarrassing. Anyways, and I remember we were wrestling. It was really quite fun. And my brother and I, we love each other dearly. But come on, testosterone. We were like, what, 19, 18, something like that. University. And I remember, oh my goodness, it was rough. But I finally pinned him and made him say uncle. And I felt so victorious. And then we proceeded back upstairs to continue doing dishes. And that's when, and I'm a profuse sweater anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I always sweat. But I couldn't stop sweating. And then I realized as I was doing dishes, oh, I gotta have to go lie down. And I remember the last thing I remember is walking to my room. I remember nothing else. I blacked out. And so apparently during the wrestling match, I may have won that battle, but he won the war, because after that I had to wear I wore my, well, that was back in the day when I was a young kid, when everybody wore those weight belts. I had to wear that all the time because I'm pretty sure, like you, Michael, I herniated a disc. I was in so much pain. It was ridiculous. And back then, I really went to university to use their gym, not really to study. And I loved to work out, and I would be in the weight room. I know you can't tell now, I'm kind of scrawny now, but I love to be in the weight room. And I was so devastated because I couldn't work out the same because of my lower back pain. But, you know, it took months and months and months, and it got better, but it's so easy to tweak. And you know what the irony is? It's not when you're lifting something heavy and being heroic that you tweak your back. It's often when you're like bending over to tie your shoelaces or sneezing, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's like, oh, I can't walk. And so it's debilitating. It's not nice, and it's not a good feeling. And so my sister's a physio, excuse me. And so she would help me out and try to push the disc back in for me as well, which was great. But I always came across this issue all throughout my 20s and into my 30s. And, you know, what's scary is that I thought that that was just my lot in life, that God was punishing me because of my stupidity of wrestling my brother. But I digress. Then I came across this book, and it's called Foundation. Okay. And it's kind of crazy because I think I came across this doctor, this guy. He did a TED Talk years ago. I watched his TED Talk, and he was talking about foundational movements, about our posterior chain, about how we neglect our glutes, our butt, our hamstrings, our back, and how we're bracing wrong. And that's the cause of a lot of our back issues. And it kind of resonated to me. And because I grew up in like the 80s and 90s, and nobody taught me, there was no internet, there was no YouTube, there was no CrossFit. And so you just go to the gym and you lift weights to look good, right? And so I was like the ice cream cone. I only did like the glamour muscles, like, you know, the biceps, the chest, and all that, you know, squats and stuff. But I didn't really balance my body out. And so nowadays I'm much simpler. Whenever I push, I pull as well. So my body is much more balanced. But this was revolutionary to me, to not focus on, you know, the chest and the biceps, but to look at the posterior chain and then work on the glutes, work on the hamstrings, and figure out how is my body supposed to move together. All right. And so I've been pain-free for over a decade. I'm old. Mid 30s. That's when I found out about this. And so ever since doing the exercise in the book, it fixed me, which is really crazy because I was sure that I was just destined to have back pain for the rest of my life. And especially early on, I would do these exercises from the book, and then I would saying, oh, I'm all better. And then I'd tweak my back again. And then I'd have to start again and start doing the exercises. And I have to warn you, the exercises look, one, really ridiculous. And two, they look really super simple, but they're actually really hard to figure out what he's trying to achieve with bracing your butt, with bending at what they call the hinge, the hip, right? And also making sure you're not curving too much on the lordotic curve, or not curving enough. And so I really recommend, and I have a link to it in my link there, the iBook, the enhanced iBook. And why? Because they include 10 videos, and I'm a visual learner. Sure, he does have all the explanations point by point on the exercises to do, and he also says, what to watch out for. Watch out for this mistake, and don't do this, which is really useful. But I found that the videos were the best part, because then I could watch what he's trying to do and replicate that as best I could. And believe it or not, even when you're holding a simple move, and it might be me being just a tryhard, I sweat just holding one of his basic moves, and especially in the beginning. But let's watch one of his videos, and so you can see what he's all about and what his whole theory is. All right. So I'm going to try to make this work. I'm not sure if it will. So let us watch this.
The hinge. This is the most important principle behind everything we do in foundation training. It's the reason the exercises work. It's the reason the other exercises you do don't work as well. When you're moving in the proper alignment of the spine, when your lower back is braced, your butt muscles are acting as your primary stabilizers and your primary movers, you're getting so much less force at the discs of the spine, at the joints in the knees, at the joints in the ankles. It's a very different movement pattern than anything you're used to. Our entire body is most powerful when we follow our natural slight extension of the lower spine. It's called the lordotic curve of the lumbar spine. So go ahead and turn sideways, feet about shoulder width apart, bend your knees slightly. Just slowly press your chest forward with a slightly extended spine. This is a very good extension. We have a lot of tension at his lower back. The back muscles are supported. The butt muscles are supporting his entire upper body here. The difference between this and hyperextension is this. Right here we have a lot of compression going on at the lower spine. This is obviously what we want to avoid. But this is a very different thing than the hinge pattern that we're looking for. As your chest pushes forward, your butt is going to push back. All of the force is generated right here at the butt muscles, at the lower back, and at the hamstrings. Bring your hips back up, chest up, and then push right back down. Go ahead and just do 3 or 4 of those. This hinge takes a lot of pressure away from the anterior upper hip joints, one of the most common places of degeneration in the human body. It also takes a lot of pressure away from the anterior front knee joints, the second most common place for degeneration in the human body. As you get better and better at this, every movement you make, every sport you play, every activity you do will improve.
Now, what's crazy, Brenda? I just saw your, was it Brenda? Yeah, knee pain. Okay, now did you just hear what he said? The 2 points of degeneration are, common points are the hip as well as the knee. And so if your knee tracks over past your toes, you're putting a lot of shear force inside that joint, and that's going to degenerate as well. But we'll talk about knees in another day. But yeah, so Jackie explains a lot. I have the tightest hip joints ever. Yeah. And so, okay, this is just one little thing, all right? And what's interesting, okay, there has to be a disclaimer. I should have said this earlier. I'm not a doctor. He's a chiro, and so he is a doctor. But that being said, I know friends who I've tried to help, like one of my neighbors down the street, he has a fractured disc, okay? So this is not, it's going to help him strengthen, but it's not going to be a fix. Like he needs surgery, right? So that's totally different. So if you are in true pain, definitely go to a doctor and get a referral to like a physio or get an x-ray, get yourself checked out, because this will not cure everybody. But I truly believe that many of us, if we, we're injured or we have a slipped disc, that with doing the proper exercises, we can prevent future reoccurrence of this injury by strengthening our posterior chain, by lifting properly as well. Now, I know it looks really weird like a duck, like you're pushing out your butt pretty far out, But believe it or not, if we're moving the energy and our muscles into the bigger gluteus maximus for a reason, man. Okay, then we're going to have less stress on our back. We're going to be better tracking on our knee. You don't want your knee to ever go past your toe when you're lifting as well. So yeah, it's just generally really good. And I'm 43, 44 this year. And again, for me to be pain-free for a decade is incredible. Now, there's all these different pieces of the puzzles, and this is just one of the most basic explanations of what he's trying to achieve in changing our dynamics, our biodynamics, because I think a lot of us are just moving wrong, and that leads to a lot of issues further down the road. So yeah, I'm hoping that this will help everybody out. And again, it's not going to be a cure-all for everybody, but stick with it. I know that I didn't see results like on day one, all right? And I thought, I don't even know if I'm doing this right, but stick with the program, go through the videos, make sure that you do it like that first week. You're only doing like a couple exercises and they seem kind of ridiculously easy until you try to brace all the right muscles. And honestly, you can get a sweat on doing pretty much any isometric exercise, including the hand lifts off the floor, etc. So hopefully that helps somebody out there. And yeah, that's all I wanted to share today. Yeah, anything you guys want to share too? Anybody have a fix for back pain? Or I know there's a lot of people who have back pain. Taha, how long did it take? I have a feeling it was only about a month. And I know my back got stronger and my butt got stronger. I never actually worked out my legs after my injury in university. And that's probably a huge mistake, obviously. And I didn't have a butt. And so working on the glute muscles, I think really protects you. And I have a feeling, actually thinking now more about it, like I said, Quinn's so tough, is probably because she does so many squats and she does a lot of glute exercises, step ups and jumps and all that jazz. And so I have a feeling that has a huge influence on how we use our body. Because I'm always shocked when she's never ruined like I am. And so it's kind of shocking. So Brenda, thanks so much for sharing, Dave. Love your show. See you again soon. Yeah. So yeah, Taha, definitely give it a try. I mean, you're only going to be out an iBook, right? And so this is our health. This is our livelihood if you're like me and need to use your body for a living. And so hopefully this helps somebody out. Definitely check out the links. You can get just the book. You can buy the DVD set for $50, but really the iBook is what I recommend and what I have. And it's taught me, like just like this video, how to do the proper forms. And I haven't done one of these exercises in over 5 or 6 years, and I'm still good to rock and roll. But I have changed the way that I exercise too. Knowing that the posterior chain is so important, I have definitely changed the way I look at working out and how I work out. So anyways, there we go. Taha, I bought it once I read your blog post. Unfortunately, didn't follow it. Taha, you got to do it, man. Ken, Mr. Ken is in the house. Good to see you, man. But yeah, hopefully this is good news for some of you. And I would love to hear from you. And you know what? The whole purpose of me sharing this stuff is to help somebody. And if you think somebody else can be helped by this, spread the love, share it with them as well if you could. Send them to the blog, share this video, I don't care. But really, we want to fix people. We want to help our friends out, right? And that's the goal. So thanks so much, guys. God bless. I'll see you guys tomorrow.